New developments in the case of Melissa Lucio, where her case is going next after supporters' campaigns have paid off. And a stray dog turned therapy dog, providing support to elderly patients in Milam County. Your KRHD News starts right now.
Connecting the Brazos Valley, this is KRHD News.
A stay of execution for a South Texas mother on death row. Melissa Lucio has been granted a stay of execution as of this afternoon. Lucio is accused of murdering her 2-year-old daughter in 2007. However, new evidence casts doubt on the original verdict. Lucio supporters insist that issues with the investigation, as well as ambiguity with Lucio's confession, are reason to withdraw the execution. Her case has been sent back to Cameron County, where she was originally tried, to weigh whether or not she is innocent, as well as examine if the state presented false testimony and hid evidence from the defense. No date is currently set for the retrial. Another Texas death row inmate, Rodney Reed, will have his case heard by the Supreme Court. Reed was sentenced more than 20 years ago for killing a Bastrop County woman in 1996. Reed's defense is challenging a state statute on post-conviction DNA evidence testing. They say evidence at the scene could exonerate him. Lower courts say his request is barred because the defense waited too long to file the claim. A New York judge is holding former President Donald Trump in civil contempt. It comes after the state's attorney general's office said Trump did not comply with a subpoena for documents. As part of its investigation into the Trump Organization, the New York Attorney General office has been investigating the organization for more than 2 years for fraud in appraisals and financial statements. Trump faces a fine of $10,000 a day until he complies. He has called the investigation against him a witch hunt. One Bryan neighborhood is seeing a string of vehicle break-ins that have residents concerned. In Austin Colony, 4 teenagers are suspected of breaking into and going through several cars along Colony Creek Drive. Video from a resident shows a vehicle possibly involved taking off at high speed. This just minutes after the teenagers were spotted. Anyone with information is encouraged to contact Bryan Police. Governor Greg Abbott has appointed Bryan firefighter Robert Moore to the Star of Texas Award Advisory Committee. The award is given to firefighters who are seriously injured in the line of duty and the surviving next of kin of each firefighter who is killed or sustained a fatal injury while at work. Moore is the Deputy Director and Chief Officer of the Texas A&M Engineering Extension Service and is a member of many firefighting organizations focused around safety and protection while on the job. The Brazos Valley Economic Development Corporation released its economic indicators for the month of April. The business cycle index increased by 0.3% from January to February 2022. Continuing its rebound from the impacts of the pandemic, the unemployment rate held at 3.7%, and the local leisure and hospitality sectors saw significant improvement.
The local economy is continuing to look very strong. The overall index improved by another 0.3%, which is a small incremental increase, but that's the kind that you want, is good steady growth.
The Economic Development Corporation is also seeing a talent shortage in the Brazos Valley, with many job openings available in the various job sectors. Not all heroes wear capes, and in this case, he's a 4-legged friend. A stray dog in Cameron has been rescued and now is providing support to members of Legacy Nursing. KRHD News reporter Rebecca Fiedler shares the story of one Great Dane.
At Legacy Nursing and Rehab facilities in Cameron, the favorite resident has 4 legs and a wagging tail.
For the residents of this small-town nursing home, there's been one silver lining stemming from the COVID-19 pandemic. Marmaduke, the Great Dane. The pup was first rescued as a stray in late 2019, and the animal nonprofit Milam Touch of Love knew just the forever home where he would fit in.
He's an emotional support animal, and since being in the facility, this has become his home. Definitely during COVID, when everything was locked down, I mean, he helped the nurses, the staff members, kind of reassured the families that couldn't come in and visit that, you know, there's just an extra presence there that was taking care of them.
Marmaduke rules the roost. His dog beds cover the property, and he can let himself indoors and out. While he's not allowed in the cafeteria, he makes his way to the rooms of residents like Grace Tealander for leftovers from dinner.
Oh yeah, he is a good dog.
Staff say Marmaduke makes the facility feel a little more like a real home. The emotional comfort he brings both residents and caregivers is unique.
Just like when you're having a stressful day and, you know, he comes up and just like loves on you, and it just kind of takes that little edge off.
From running the back roads alone as a stray to getting daily love from dozens of people, Marmaduke is living a dog's dream.
Reporting in Cameron, Rebecca Fiedler, KRHD News.
Texas A&M Corps of Cadets has created a scholarship for out-of-state students. KRHD News reporter Diamond Dixon spoke with a senior in the program to learn how it will benefit students.
The Corps of Cadets will offer a scholarship for out-of-state students starting next year to cover their out-of-state tuition and fees.
I think it's going to be a big benefit. Like I said, coming from out-of-state, having in-state tuition is a huge blessing because it just relieves a lot of financial burden that a lot of the population here is from Texas, so they don't have that extra added weight, but I also know a ton of people who would love to come to A&M who might not want to because they aren't able to pay that.
Grace Pick is an out-of-state student herself. She's excited for other students to have a scholarship opportunity like this.
And I love the Corps as well. I think I've gotten so much out of it, and I would hate for that opportunity to be squashed for anybody else. Like, I wouldn't be the person I am today without it, and I'm very grateful and thankful that this is an opportunity for future students too, because I think it's going to be a huge benefit for everyone.
According to Texas A&M Today, approximately 150 students will immediately benefit from more than $4 million in scholarships through this new program. Reporting in College Station, Diamond Dixon, KRHD News.
In honor of the 100th anniversary of the 12th Man tradition, Texas A&M Athletics and the 12th Man Foundation has announced plans for the Centennial Campaign. The campaign features redevelopment of the Bright Football Complex and the construction of a few new facilities, a new academic and wellness center, football indoor performance center, and an indoor track stadium. The 12th Man Foundation plans to secure $120 million in funding, the largest fundraising effort by the foundation since redeveloping Kyle Field.
Keeping your camera on during a Zoom meeting for work may not always feel like the best option, whether it's simply that you're not in work attire, maybe you have roommates or a family member in the background. But survey data from software firm Viopta finds that 92% of managers think employees that do this do not have a long-term future at the company. I know that seems harsh. 94% say in-person employees have more of a chance for promotion than those who are remote.
I think it's an extension of this fear that if we can't see you, you're clearly not working. We're struggling with understanding that we need to be measuring productivity versus face time. It doesn't make you a better employee because I can see your face.
Jobs expert Julie Balke feels that this data is really more telling of the perceptions that managers need to work on. She thinks it will improve in the next 5 to 10 years as younger generations step into leadership positions and change the norm. But in the meantime, she says if you are working remotely or have a hybrid schedule, data like this should not make you feel pressured into returning to the office. Instead, work more on having open communication with your manager and your coworkers.
And maybe it's a bi-weekly summary of everything that you've done. Maybe you meet your team for lunch once every 2 weeks. Maybe you find out when everybody's birthdays are, make sure you call them. So it's up to you, if this is important to you, to create and build and maintain those relationships and those communication channels.
The fight to slow the impacts of climate change is starting to take on new importance. Some security leaders are now sounding the alarm that our national security could be compromised by a warming planet. Chris Conte explains why.
If you're like me, the first thing that probably comes to mind when you're thinking about climate change is maybe rising sea levels or perhaps more intense storms. But I was surprised to learn recently that everything that's going on with our climate is having a major impact on national security.
Quite ignorantly, I made an assumption about this story, that only in the last decade or so did we start studying the national security impacts of climate change.
In one way, it's a large social challenge because people don't always react to challenges that still seem somewhere off in the future.
But Ron Dole, an associate professor at Florida State University, was quick to give me a history lesson and some perspective.
The greater the instability of the climate, the greater the instability in the larger political landscape, national landscapes.
Right after World War II, scientists at the Department of Defense began collecting data from the North and South Poles and saw they were getting warmer. Why did the U.S. military suddenly care? Because the warming of the North Sea meant the Soviets would more easily be able to move their navy around the world.
So understanding what was going on, including whether the climate was warming, was really important.
I wanted to better understand the current day impacts of climate change on national security, though, which is where John Conger comes in.
Now, climate change is a today problem. It is something that is happening today, the impacts we're dealing with today, and they're only going to get worse.
He says more intense storms will not only impact the power grid our military installations rely on, they'll also be more tangible impacts on our armed forces.
As climate change proceeds, you have installations that were built with a certain expectation for climate conditions and weather, and that's changing. Sea level rise is going to yield more recurring flooding. You can't fly off a flooded runway.
Then there are the broader impacts globally. Geopolitical conflicts, war, and migration will all be amplified by a warming planet.
It's also going to drive instability around the world. And so in that context, they often call climate change a threat multiplier. It makes bad situations worse.
The Department of Defense is continuing to look at ways to make our security systems more resilient to climate change.
If you ignore it, but your adversaries do not, you leave yourself a blind spot.
When it comes to the broad-reaching impacts of a warming planet, though, it appears all assumptions should be off the table. I'm Chris Conte.
Taking a look at our Clark roofing cam, you can see that we have seen quite a bit of rain across the area and still some showers out there right now. Wet roadways, so take it easy across the region. As we check out our 24-hour rainfall totals, you can see that we've seen quite a bit here across the Brazos Valley. Milam County kind of missing out with less than an inch here, but here in Brazos County, how about 1 to 4 inches and even some isolated totals over 4 inches of rain. And as of 3 o'clock, we'll update this at 10, 2.11 inches. That breaks the daily rainfall record for Bryan College Station. So it has been a wet day here across the region. Nice to say that, and there are still showers that will be moving through. This probably won't come to an end till about mid-evening around here. There is an end in sight, though, out across West Texas. You can see those showers and thunderstorms coming to an end out here. So eventually that drier air will work into the Brazos Valley. But until then, a few showers around, and those will be spotty as we head through 7 o'clock Tuesday morning with mostly cloudy skies to greet us in the morning. Then by the afternoon, partly cloudy and looking pretty nice as we dry out. Wednesday, a few more clouds around here and there, but again, it should be dry by the middle part of the work week. So tonight, temperatures will be down into the 50s for us, 55 in Hearn, 59 in Bryan College Station over toward Anderson and Navasota. So a little bit cooler behind a front. And then tomorrow, highs into the 70s as the sunshine returns. Should be a really nice day, and that evaporation will start here. But hopefully we'll start to see a few more wildflowers with this nice spring rain we have seen. And taking a look at your forecast, 75 degrees Tuesday, a few showers in the morning, clearing out in the afternoon, 79 Wednesday. Next chance of rain, well, that may roll in as we head toward the weekend.
The pandemic has changed what we do at home and what we want from our home. The America at Home study looks at what people are interested in when it comes to buying a home. One of the big ones is open floor plans, as we spend more time working and living at home. Now, with continued supply chain delays and labor shortages, demand for new home construction over the past 2 years has drastically outpaced supply. But Usher Qureshi found one part of the industry that is seeing big business is modular home construction.
We are in the future of construction building, whether it's residential or commercial real estate. Inside this 60,000 square foot factory, the Sheeler family is building homes one room at a time.
The pieces consist of a floor assembly, walls, and a ceiling system.
The prefabricated houses are built in sections or modules.
We start building the floor and then we crane that up and fly it over with our cranes and put it online.
They then move from station to station, a sort of home building assembly line.
Electrical, plumbing, drywall, painting, flooring, cabinets, trim. Everything's pretty much complete when it's finished, about 95%.
Eventually, the modules are shipped to the lot and put together like Legos directly on the foundation.
I would imagine you have to make sure that they're very rigid and sturdy when you do that.
Yeah, so this is a foam glue, and we spray it on, and then it hardens, and this stuff is hard. And what this does for us is, because we have to move modular, pick them up, this adds so much more strength all the way down the stud.
Constructed to code and fully inspected, inside they're indistinguishable from traditionally built homes.
A very open concept design.
One of the biggest cost savings comes from the speed at which these factory-built homes can be completed, between 30 and 50% faster than homes built on site.
We're not affected by the weather. There's no weather delays when we're building indoors. So that is the advantage. We can build all year round and not be affected by any of that.
Homeway Homes shifted from building traditional on-site homes to exclusively focusing on modular construction about 17 years ago.
At any given time, they're building about 6 to 7 homes inside this construction facility, and they're completing about 1.5 homes per week.
When they used to construct on-site, they could only build about 12 homes a year.
400% more construction can be built out of a facility like this than on site.
The global modular building market grew from $72 billion in 2020 to nearly $76 billion last year. It's forecast to grow to almost $115 billion by 2028. States are taking notice. In Colorado, a new bill calls for $40 million in grant funding to be dedicated to innovative housing like modular homes.
Time is money, and yeah, you can definitely save some money on modular construction.
On Chicago's west side, modular duplexes built in off-site factories are helping to create affordable housing by reducing construction costs and shortening completion times to just 90 days.
That's the beauty of modular, to make it easy and quicker for the homeowner, for the real estate investor, to get their job done quick with quality.
And amidst a growing national housing shortage, modular building might just provide the right fit. Reporting from Central Illinois, I'm Usher Qureshi.
A major food producer is chipping in for its 120,000 employees in the U.S. to go to school. Tyson Foods is launching a free college education program. Tyson is putting $60 million into this 4-year program. The pandemic brought about changes to work both inside and outside the home. But when we're talking about inside, well, it could be having a negative impact on couples.
Ultimately, it's a factor in their relationship stability, right? Whether they break up or they stay together.
Dan Carlson's with the Department of Family and Consumer Studies at the University of Utah. He put out new research on why how you divide household chores really matters and what makes couples feel the most satisfied.
For women who share housework equally with their partner, they have a 50-50 split. If they're not sharing any tasks with their partner, their levels of satisfaction with their relationship are as low as women who do all of the housework. And if you look at men, right, men who share the majority of tasks with their partner are as happy as men who do no housework.
Carlson says essentially men and women need to share the same tasks like cooking, cleaning, and laundry, as well as shopping, to feel most satisfied. He says that is in part because the division of labor just feels more equal. It affects people in both the same way, rather than one person always being stuck with the less rewarding chores. But he says oftentimes couples don't talk about this, they just fall into patterns, and splitting tasks requires more coordination and communication, which he says is good for relationships.
When you're doing tasks and that they're your sole responsibility, even if you like it, you can feel resentment over always having to do it. It's just, I'm always doing this. My part, and you just might feel like that you've been doing it a lot, and your partner doesn't chip in.
The research presented today by the Council on Contemporary Families included surveys over several decades, and now they're looking closer at what happened during COVID. Carlson says essential household responsibilities went up, and at first, men and women shared equally, but now that more men than women have gone back to work, women are still doing more.
World News Tonight is just ahead, and we're back in 30 minutes for KRHD News at 6. Until then, have a good evening.